Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to present to you Secretary Tim Geithner.
Exports have grown 26% in real terms over the same period, and growth in investment in exports has far outpaced the average for comparable periods after the last 8 recessions. Growth in the American economy has been relatively broad-based, with increases in manufacturing, in energy, in agriculture, and high tech, offsetting the continued weakness we still see in housing and construction, and the significant ongoing contraction in the overall size of government and government services and employment.
News questions. What's your impression at the moment of what's happening in Greece, and to what extent is our economy at risk if there's a default or a withdrawal from the euro?
Well, as you all know, and you've been reading for the last 2.5 years, Europe's still caught in the grip of a very tough financial crisis. And that crisis, as it's evolved, has been quite damaging to growth around the world, even just over the last 2 years or so. And it still poses some risk to the American economy. They are trying to put in place a more credible strategy for managing this crisis, for trying to make sure that the monetary union can work. And as you can tell, they still have some work to do to try to contain the risk of a broader crisis. What you're seeing now is, in addition to the efforts to try to find a path forward in Greece, and the Chancellor of Germany yesterday made some very important comments on this. She said that it's important to Europe and to Germany to keep Greece in the euro, and that Germany plans to show some more flexibility in how to make that possible for them. But what they're also talking about is trying to figure out a better balance between growth and austerity, ways to mobilize more public investment in infrastructure and target that to the weakest economies in the region. They're working to make sure their financial system is strong enough to weather the storm. They're putting in place what they call a fiscal compact. It's not quite what Hamilton did in the United States 2 centuries ago, but it's a way to try to make sure that they have a more integrated, coordinated capacity to run fiscal policy across a continent with very different economies. So they're trying to work through those problems, and it's you can see it's a challenge for them. But they have the capacity to manage this, and our of course advice to them, which we provide with humility and bearing the scars of our crisis, and the choice we made here is to try to manage this in a way that's going to cause less damage to our economy and the economies of the rest of the world.
What do you know about the banks in Greece? To what extent are they under strain at the moment, and have they been able to get the help that they need from European authorities? If that needs to go further, in terms of potential United States involvement, what would be on the table, what would be off the table?
Across Europe, there's a very important effort underway to put more capital into the financial system, not just in Greece. As you know, that's one of the most important things you do in a financial crisis. It's important not just to make sure you preserve some stability in the financial system, but so that the financial system can provide the credit you need to grow. And what we did in the United States, as you may recall, is we forced the largest American banks, over their significant objection, frankly, to go out and raise $300 billion of common equity at a time where the system was very fragile. And in addition to that act and the other reforms we put in place, we moved very quickly to make sure our financial system was going to be strong enough, not just to protect the savings of Americans, but so they could be able to finance a growing recovery rather than to impede an expanding economy. So what Europe is doing, and they have more work to do in this, is try to, and they've come to this judgment a little too slowly, is to try to make sure there's enough capital in the financial system, that they have the kind of guarantees of funding that you need for financial systems to survive financial stress. And that's important, even as they go ahead and think about ways to get economic growth going more broadly.